Our I can statement for today is I can add rational numbers. Here's our example problem, 2 2/3 plus 1 1/6. So we're going to go through step by step how to add fractions by hand. Step 1 is to convert all mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay, so remember that 2 wholes could be broken down into thirds, and if we did that, we would have 3/3 for each whole, so 6/3 for the 2 wholes that we have in this fraction. So 2 times 3 gives us 6/3 total. Then we need to add in the 2/3 that we have from this fractional part. So 6 plus 2 is 8/3. Okay, so remember, we do the 2 times the 3. That gives us the number of 3's in the whole part of the fraction. And then we're going to add that to the 2/3 in the fractional part of our mixed number. We can do the same thing. 1 whole times 6 gives us 6 pieces. Then we're going to add to that the 1 from our fraction part. So we're going to have 7 sixth size pieces. The next step is to find the least common denominator. The least common denominator for this example is going to be 6, because I can take 3 and multiply it by 2 to get 6, and 6 just stays the same. It's already there. So let's go ahead and multiply the top and bottom of this fraction by 2. So 2 times 8 is going to give us 16. 2 times 3 is going to give us 6. And then we're just going to keep our second fraction the same. Sometimes you can find a least common denominator by only multiplying one of the fractions. Sometimes you're going to have to multiply both of the fractions by different numbers so that you get that common denominator. Our next step is to add the numerators. So we're going to add the top numbers straight across. So 16 plus 7, and that's going to give us 23. Then we're going to keep our denominator. We worked so hard to get it, so we want to make sure we keep it. So we have 23/6. Our final step is to find an equivalent fraction or simplify our fraction so that it is in simplest form, so that it's reduced. Since 23 is bigger than 6, I want to start by figuring out how many wholes. So 23 divided by 6 is just short of 4, so I know that I have 3 wholes. 6 times 3 is 18. 23 minus 18 is going to be 5. So I have 5/6 left over. Another way to think about this is if we had 24/6, we could make that into 4 even wholes. So we should have 3 wholes and 1 less than our total number 6 for the number of pieces. So that's another mental math way of visualizing our answer. Our final answer here is 3 5/6. Try adding the next 2 problems on your own. Start the video back up when you're ready to check your work and your answers, or if you're stuck and you need help. All right, so for the first problem, my first step is to take any mixed numbers and convert them to improper fractions. So I'm going to start by taking 3 times 9. That's going to give me the number of pieces in my whole part. So 3 times 9 is 27. And then I'm going to add in those 4 from the fraction part. So 27 plus 4 is going to give me 31. And then I'm going to keep my denominator, keep it as a 9. Okay, the other fraction is already written as a simple proper fraction. So I'm just going to copy that down. Then my next step is to find a common denominator. And the easiest way is going to be to take the second fraction, multiply the top and bottom by 3, because 3 times 3 will give me 9, and then I'll have the same number on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. So my new fraction becomes negative 6/9. Then I'm going to add straight across, focusing on the top. So 31 plus negative 6. Now remember, if I'm adding a negative, it's just like subtracting a number. So we can think of this as 31 subtract 6. So that's going to give me 25 on the top. Then I keep my denominator, so I keep it as a 9. So this is my answer, but remember we want to write our fractions in simplest form. We need to find an equivalent fraction. Now, I can do this by figuring out how many wholes I can get from 25 pieces. And remember, there are 9 pieces to a whole. That's what my denominator tells me. So I'm going to take 25 and divide it by 9. And this is something that you could do in the calculator to help if you need help with the division. So I'm going to do 25 divided by 9. And I know that I can get 2 wholes out of that. So if you did this in the calculator, 25 divided by 9, you'd get 2-point stuff. So you just use the 2 to get the whole number. 9 times 2 is 18. So I'm going to just do 25 subtract 18 to figure out what's left over. And that means that there are 7 pieces left over, 7/9 size pieces. So 2 and 7/9 is my final answer. With our second problem, notice that the negative 7 is a whole number, but we can make any whole number a fraction by writing it over 1, because a whole number is saying I have negative 7 1th size pieces, so a whole. Then I bring down the negative 7 over 1, and then I converted the second fraction to an improper fraction, which would be 41 over 9. Then I'm going to find a common denominator, that is 9ths. So I have negative 63/9 when I find a common denominator. I did that by multiplying the top fraction, or the first fraction, top and bottom, by 9. Then I'm going to add straight across. Remember the rules for adding and subtracting negative numbers. So I end up with negative 22 over 9. And that simplifies to a final answer of 2 and 4/9. Now try them with the calculator. Remember that you can separate each part of the fraction by using that ABC button. It's one that looks kind of like a fraction does. So you can use this for simple fractions or for mixed numbers. So for the first problem, I would type into my calculator 1 ABC 2 ABC 9 plus 2 ABC 1 ABC 18. Those little comma looking things, that represents the spaces in between where you press the ABC button. So what I've written in blue is what you should see in the display of the calculator. And then when you press enter, you will get 3 in the calculator. It will show up like 3 with that unit symbol or that little space symbol, 5 5/18. So our final answer is just going to be 3 and 5/18. So in the calculator, you'll see this symbol, but you don't need to write it in your final answer. Just write it like this. Number 4 is negative 4 and 17 over 21, 17/21. For the story problem, number 5, it says, you finish 3/8 of the project. Your friend finishes 1/4 of the project. What fraction of the project is finished? Well, we're going to add together the two parts, the part that I finished, the part that my friend has finished, to get the total. So I have 3/8 plus 1/4. I can either use the calculator or compute it by hand. But either way, the final answer is 5/8. Now let's move on to adding decimals. So with this particular step for adding or subtracting, you want to make sure that you line up the decimals, okay? So traditionally we'd line it up by last place value, but not when we're adding or subtracting. So I've lined up the place values. Then I'm going to add in extra zeros if necessary. There's a digit here that I can fill in with an extra zero. Then I'm going to bring the decimal down. So just right underneath the decimal in the two add-ins, I'm just going to put my decimal point here. Then I am going to add or subtract like normal. So 0 plus 3 is 3. 6 plus 2 is 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 0 is 2. And this is my final answer, 2.383. In class, we tried these with a partner. I want you to try them on your own for practice, and then start the video back up when you're ready to check your work and your answers. All right, so here's my evidence of my answers. For number 1, I got 21.4. For number 2, I got 17.7. Feel free to pause the video here if you want to take a look at my evidence and my work. Now try these next two problems with a calculator. Remember that you want to include the decimal button, and anytime you're adding a negative, like we are in this first example, be sure to use the negative button that looks like this on the calculator and not just the subtract button. Start the video when you're ready to check your responses. All right, the answer for number 3 is 2.082. The answer for number 4 is 12.604. For our story problem, you have a gift card with a balance of $25.79 and decide to go shopping. Your first choice costs $11.23, and the second item costs $4.89. How much will you have left over? If I was doing this by hand, there are actually two different ways. I could first add up the two items and then subtract that from my starting balance. Another option is I could take the starting balance and subtract the first item, that 11.23 item, and then I could subtract from that total the 4.89 item. However, if we use the calculator, we can do it all at once, all in one step. So in my calculator, I would type in the following number sentence. 25.79 subtract 11.23 subtract 4.89. I would press enter and it would give me 967. And then remember, I want to include my units for my final answer, so that would be $9.67. Remember to watch the video as many times as you need to, pausing where you need to, so that you can review this information and make sure you understand it. Thanks for watching.